Hi there, I'm Sipka, and this is the Apatros Review. Now in this episode we take a look at this, Mutant Hunt, the middle installment of Tim Kincaid's Robot Trilogy. And the trilogy goes as this: Robot Holocaust, this, and The Occultist. I've already reviewed Robot Holocaust and The Occultist previously. And this is pretty much the middle installment of that trilogy, and it's going to be the last Tim Kincaid film I'm going to review for a while. I will review Breeders sometime in the future, but for now, this is... we'll stick with the Synthetica. Now this is an American film, obviously, and it was direct-to-video. In fact, it was actually the very last film to be released on the Wizard Video label. I'll talk more about that later on. It premiered in Japan, first of all, on the 20th of May 1987, and then in the US on June of 1987, then in West Germany of February 1988, and in Italy of 2nd April 1989. I don't have any dates on when it reached Australia. But I remember I actually had a VHS release in Australia through Roadshow Entertainment. Now the film was directed and written by Tim Kincaid and produced by his wife at the time, Cynthia DePaula. The cast include Rick Gianassi, who is also Sergeant Kabukiman, Mary Fahey, Ron Reynaldi, Tony Brennan, some of these names are weird, Bill Pearson, Stormy Spill, and J. Buzz von Ornsteiner, the guy who played that Freebot Clayton in the Robot Holocaust. Now the DVD, it's an American. This is the only release of the film on DVD so far, and it's part of Full Moon Pictures' Grindhouse collection. They released a bunch of films, pretty much ripped from old film reels and VHS tapes. In this case, it was the VHS tape. Pretty much for the Grindhouse collection series, and I will say that there's actually one issue of the film I found. I'll mention that later, but I should point out that it's multi-regional, so if you're buying this anywhere out of America, like for example in Australia, you don't need to worry about region coding because it's multi-zone. And it's NTSC, but I guess everyone now has a plasma TV, LED TV, whatever, nothing like those CRT TVs of the past, so you don't need to worry about NTSC playback. As I delve deeper into the twisted origins of the direct-to-video market in the 1980s, I come across what is probably one of the most feared of gay hardcore skin flick director Tim Kincaid's 4-picture deal with Charles Band for delivering cheaper science fiction direct-to-video films for a short-lived Wizard Video label. In fact, this particular film, the middle part of Kincaid's unofficial Robot Trilogy of Bargain Basement Synthetica, that has been Robot Holocaust and The Occultist, which I've already reviewed, is the second most well-known of Kincaid's films. The most well-known, and feared by uptight moralists, also the most widely available one, is being the nasty alien vision flick / TNA fest Breeders, which I'll review sometime in the future. Now, Mutant Hunt is for all intents and purposes a Z-grade Dime Store version of Blade Runner, but resembling what would have happened if Ridley Scott didn't have his trademark visual style and went by his poor storytelling skill alone. And of course, Ridley Scott doesn't know how to tell a story. It's good with visuals, but not with story. Or if somebody gave him only about $20 to spend, an obsolete camera about to be tossed in the trash heap, a visual effects wizard making a friend's promise to whip up some prosthetic effects for free, and 3 reels of film with a limit to 1 take per shot to avoid wasting film. The story has more holes in it than a hooker's tights, as we have not a mad scientist exactly, as this guy doesn't invent anything, instead being technically a mad manager, named Z, who sees the opportunity to sabotage his own business, the robotics company Intel Tracks, by feeding his latest line of cyborgs, the Delta 7 model cyborgs, with a banned narcotic called Euphoron that turns into violent, sex-crazed killers. What is it with this Tim Kincaid guy? Anywho, these sex-crazed cyborgs are let loose onto the streets of future New York. Well, one possible future that hasn't gotten the memo that Rudy Giuliani would ruthlessly clean up Times Square in less than a decade after this grubby movie was released. Although I won't count as a goof that as a goof, nor the inclusion of the World Trade Center, as nobody at the time would have predicted the terrorist attacks that would fall the Twin Towers 14 years later. In fact, if you went back in time to 1987 and told the average New Yorker that a plane would hit the World Trade Center, they would be probably asking, "Are you talking about Escape from New York? You know, Snake Plissken lands a glider on the World Trade Center." They're probably thinking about that. Now, these cyborgs practically hassle random New Yorkers until the sister of the Delta 7 head designer is sent by a brother, who was arrested by Z so he won't leak the Mad Manager's stupid plan, to his old friend the mercenary Matt Riker, future Sergeant Kabukiman actor Rick Gianassi, in his third of 4 roles for Kincaid, to get his help. The damsel in distress breaks into Matt Riker's apartment while he's just had a love-making session with a somewhat bitchy pleasure droid, played by Necropolis star Leanne Baker in her last role before she left the movie scene to take up theatre work. Although she gives us a brief mood flash in this role, with a trio of Delta 7 cyborgs hot on her heels. Clad only in his tighty-whitey underpants, Riker kills 2 of the cyborgs and shuts down the third, which will reboot itself a few minutes later by choosing to redeem itself and join Riker's side to avenge its addiction, while the hooker's bot is tossed out the window to her death by one of the cyborgs. Damn. Now convinced that he needs to save his friend's life, Riker heads out to recruit his old team. Together with the half-decayed cyborg and a slew of cheap-looking gadgets, this New York mutant cyborg busters scour the streets to track down and retire the rampaging Delta 7 cyborgs and stop Z. Although their work is a little cut out for them, as the Delta 7 series cyborgs have the ability to telepathically sense danger, something only slightly more plausible than the infamous sense recall ability from legendary bad movie classic Rota. And Z's rival, the original head of Intel Tracks, sends out her own creation to take Z out. This is quite honestly one of the very worst movies I've seen coming out of Charles Band's first generation direct-to-video flicks. The story is very sloppily written, the fight choreography is shit, the dialogue is stupid, and the pace is slow, with an added bonus of random cyborg attacks thrown in to keep the viewer watching, and the bad movie masochist cheering. Only the sparsely applied makeup effects fare decently here, as the decayed cyborg puppet head looks interesting. But compared with something like Rebel Holocaust with its El Chiba second-rate Bronx Warriors vibe, and The Occultist with its utter mess of a script, Mutant Hunt probably rates as the best of the Kincaid Robot trilogy. Usually in a trilogy, the second installment is the best, and it seems to be the case here. It has the feel of an amateur home movie made by wannabe filmmakers who wanted to break into the showbiz and somehow managed to get a respectable release. Only the reality is that this was nothing more than a semi-cynical attempt to create a lucrative new avenue to rip off VHS fans by spewing hot garbage onto the video store shelves without tipping them off beforehand from any theatrical listings. Indeed, this direct-to-video market was initially designed to allow some of the most financially damaged, ultra-low-budget flicks to get a release and use word of mouth amongst video store fans, and some very determined bad movie masochists, of which their culture only really just got started at the beginning of the 1980s, to drum up the rental receipts. But the good news is that once the 1990s came along, the direct-to-video market cleaned up its act and brought some legit classics from its market, while Charles Band, after selling Wizard Video right after Mutant Hunt became its last release, set up Full Moon to continue his direct-to-video business, and now he pretty much does films straight to DVD, and Tim Kincaid took a decade's worth of hiatus from filmmaking, only to return to gay hardcore at the end of the century, where it remains to this day. Now, Mutant Hunt joins its fellow Kincaid flicks in the D- 1 out of 10 run with the Apatros grading ladder. It's shipped from Kincaid's ass, as usual, but if you're a bad movie masochist, you'll be looking for a DVD copy without needing my encouragement. Now for gore nudity. The gore on the rare occasion it appears looks pretty good. Ed French does a decent job with the half-decayed cyborg skull puppet head that speaks his vocabulary, robot larynx, lining up with each syllable. Reminds me a bit of Class 99 on there. And nudity consists of Leanne Baker casually showing us her tits as she puts on a nightie while sitting on Matt Riker's bed during the exposition dump of the scene, right before the three cyborg amigos bust in Riker's pad and she goes out the window. This was Baker's last role in film, and she left the movie business right afterwards. Now for the DVD. Well, this is actually really interesting for me to talk about, as I have the film's only legit DVD release from Full Moon's Grindhouse collection of VHS source titles, which includes Necropolis, but that's a review for another time. First off, Charles Band hasn't got the original film negatives for this flick on hand, so he took an old VHS tape and ripped it onto DVD, but without the film's closing credits attached. What the hell? As for quality, the VHS print is quite bad. Indeed, most people will take one look at this print and toss the DVD away, thinking this is an unacceptable presentation for today's age. Normally, they'd be right on the money there, but were it not for the fact that the negatives for Mutant Hunter were lost a long time ago, and they only had VHS tapes on hand to use for this disc, for that doesn't explain why they didn't have the closing credits. Plus, this is a movie with a bad reputation amongst genre fans for its awfulness, and the only people looking to score a copy are the bad movie cult of hardcore masochists like me. And the bad quality only adds to the charm, as is also the atmosphere of watching a VHS rip of the infamous VHS blur and tracking errors. Personally, I still have a number of VHS tapes in my collection, and 3 VCRs still working. So the poor quality is right at home for us in terms of atmosphere, so I'll let the bad quality slide in this one. And you probably wonder why I don't grade the DVDs, only the films. The aspect ratio is in 1:33, which is right where you want VHS tapes to be in, as well as the original English dual mono soundtrack. So if you're one of those widescreen junkies or a 5:1 junkie, forget it with this one. And no subtitles are offered, which can cause problems since some of the dialogue sounds a little bit muffled in poor quality original audio. And while there's no supplements specifically for this film, there is an abundance of preview trailers, like 6 preview trailers for the current at the time full moon release. And by the way, this DVD actually came out in 2011, according to the copyright notice on the DVD. Full moons, grindhouse, and steaming, blah blah blah. 2011 full moon features, yeah. Yeah, 2011. This DVD came out basically, what, 11 years ago. And, yeah. And like I said, there's a bunch of preview trailers, 6 of them, and including a couple of those evil Bong films. What the hell's with those evil Bong things? And even there's also some promotional material of some other projects, and also an 8-minute video of Charles Band talking about the good old days of the 1970s, 1980s exploitation market. Now, contrary to what young people believe nowadays, nobody back then used the term grindhouse to describe the exploitation market during its heyday. Grindhouse was only a retroactively applied term coined in the 2000s, about the time Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino did that Grindhouse double feature thing, which wasn't exactly a big hit. Now, when you fire the film up, in other words, select play from the menu, there is a brief self-cancelling title card that tells you what to expect of the picture and sound quality. So, if I grade this according to quality, it pretty much will get like only slightly higher than the film itself, like a DoD+. So, I mean, the DVD itself, the supplement is just promotional material, there's nothing for the film itself, and to be honest, I mean, if you want to get this, you have to be a fan of the film, or actually Bad Movie Masochist to really get this, and you have to be a fan of VHS, I mean, the quality of it. Of course, I've noticed how when you get like an American DVD done on of a VHS rip that's an NTSC, it actually looks a little bit worse than you would get like a PAL PAL VHS. Because I've actually, in my collection, I have many of my videotapes are converted to DVD, and the quality actually, probably because of the quality I use, but it looks better than the American ones for some reason. Anyway. Okay, so that's it for Mutant Hunt. A D-, 1 out of 10. It's atrocious. Which is pretty much what you expect of any Tim Kincaid movie, and which actually leaves us one film left on our Tim Kincaid thing to this 4-picture deal, and I'll review Breeder sometime in the future. I don't know, maybe late this year, early next year. I don't know. It'll be a while, and also review its remake at the same time. In fact, actually, 2 of Tim Kincaid's productions have actually had remakes. Breeders, which had a remake in 1997, and Necropolis, which actually wasn't. Kincaid didn't direct that, he produced it. Some other director made it. And that one actually also had its own remake done, more like a reimagining done as part of Charles Band's. He had this range of horror films made a few years ago, which was kind of cancelled when the coronavirus kicked in. Anyway. Okay, so if you're a Bad Movie Masochist, this is definitely one to get. Also, if you're a fan of VHS atmosphere, definitely also one to get, but it's a really shitty movie, which is typical of Tim Kincaid anyway. Now, I don't do requests, but if you have any questions about films or DVDs in general, just hit me up in the comment section, I'll be happy to answer. Probably wondering how I've actually got my hat. Yeah. Okay, hope you guys are staying safe, take it easy, and that's it for this review. See ya.